That's where I met art therapists. That's what made me pursue art therapy.
Thank you, Takako, for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
This
for
is your
having me.
first podcast, right?
Yes.
You've never done a podcast
Never.
before. Okay, well, buckle up, because we're about to go for it. I see on LinkedIn that it says here that you're a licensed marriage and family therapist, board certified art therapist,
Right.
and you're also a public certified psychologist.
In Japan, yeah.
Okay,
I know.
that is interesting. Where were you born?
I was born in Ibaraki.
Ibaraki.
Ibaraki,
And you lived there
Brazil.
until when?
Oh, let's see, until 15 to middle school. Because for high school, I went to Tokyo for
Okay.
the boarding school. Yeah,
You went to a boarding school in Tokyo?
in Tokyo. Yeah.
Was
yeah.
it a girls' school or a boys' school?
It was co-ed. Yeah. But I was away from my parents.
Okay. And why did you do that? Why instead of staying in Ibaraki?
What did I do? I wanted to get out of my hometown.
Do you have siblings?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, what? What do you have? A boy?
I have an oldest brother who's 9 years older than me, and oldest sister who is 7 years older than me.
Okay. So they kind of like raised you in a way.
Yeah, they're my second parents.
Is
yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
So mom and dad, did both of them work when you were growing up?
My mom was actually a homemaker.
Okay.
My dad worked several
Okay.
jobs. I don't know what he was doing at the time,
But
but
he made sure he provided, right?
yes.
Like, how are your parents doing now?
They're doing good, but they're both having a retired life. So
Do they still live in Ibaraki?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
All my family except me all live in Ibaraki.
Okay.
They're all close to each other too.
Is that right? So when you came over here, so why did you wanted to get away from Ibaraki, you came to Tokyo.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? At the age of 15, right?
Yeah. 15. It was good, and I think it's a mixed feeling. It's being teenager. It was a lot of, I guess, pressure of feeling like I'm from countryside. It's like, oh, everybody's like from Tokyo and sophisticated. So I feel very kind of inferior when it comes to that. Yeah. So it was a new experience for me. Yeah.
So how'd you deal with that? Did you have any friends? Was there anyone else that you knew from that area, from Ibaraki, maybe that came here?
No.
Or was there anyone else that was outside of Tokyo that came in that you knew? You were just alone, basically?
I mean, good things is that the dormitory say a lot of kids are coming from outside Tokyo as well. But I definitely had a hard time adjusting to the life in Tokyo. So I definitely didn't do a lot of good things. I coped with a lot of bad things at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you stayed in the school until what age? You from 15 till 17 or 15 till
Well, 3 more years, right, in high school.
Years.
So it's probably almost 18.
18?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were some of the subjects that you really liked while you were in school?
I didn't study much in high school. So I
So
don't know if I remember anything.
Really? So that's why afterwards you became a super achiever. You said, since I didn't do it in school.
Yeah, like one time after years after graduating from high school, I look at my GPA in high school. I was like, oh, I'm glad I graduated.
What would your parents feel about that? Because they were obviously financing the whole thing, right?
Right. Oh, I mean, I had an education loan too.
Okay. That's when you came here to Tokyo? You had educational loan?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could. How do you go about doing that?
They do have a system in Japan actually. You could get education loan for a private high school. So
But don't you have to keep a certain grade average to do that? To keep it? No?
I mean, I wasn't even aware that it was by loan. I
Okay.
thought that my parents paid for it.
Oh, they
Later,
paid for it all. So you.
That's what I thought. But then
Okay.
later I realized that when I started paying for my education loan, it was more than the college amount. So I was like, oh, where is this coming from? It's like, oh, your high school is paid by the education loan too. I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, so okay. I see.
Okay.
I see. Oh. And for all 3 years?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Luckily, I paid off. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Because so many people, I think that's a big problem in the U.S. So many people leave college with $40,000, $50,000 debts.
Yeah.
And then they have to spend another 15, 20 years paying it off. And that can be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
you feel like they're still not free. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So when did you start speaking English? When you came to Tokyo? Or before you came to Tokyo, were you speaking English?
I wasn't really speaking. Like, I had basic English education from middle school in high school, but I didn't know how to speak so after after high school, I went to 1 year for college in Japan, and then after that, I decided to go to United States, New Orleans, for study abroad.
How old were you when you did that?
I was 20 at the time.
Okay.
Um,
But you didn't speak English when you went to the States?
I didn't really speak any. I would probably had like 5 words that I knew, like thank you, hello, you know.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I don't think I could even say I'm hungry. So I still remember the first day when I went to the dormitory, this university in New Orleans. This one person said like, "Hey, what's up?" I literally had this. I'm like, "What?" Say up, right? Like, I didn't know what that meant, so I didn't know how to respond.
But you
to
knew what
that.
he said. You understood what he said, but you didn't know what the meaning
Only
was
I said,
behind it.
yeah, up. Like as I
What's
heard.
up? So you looked up?
Yeah, that much I didn't understand English at the time. Yeah.
So how did you start to cope with all of it? How did you deal? You were there and you
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand the language. What did you do to start to learn the language?
I think it's just forced to speak. Otherwise, I didn't know where to get food. I didn't know what's going on in the dormitory. I was saying I had no idea.
So take me through it. So you went there. So just take me through the first day. What was it like for you? Or until you met the person that helped you start learning?
First day was I still remember that somehow the dormitory that I get in, they thought I'm male because I guess like somehow I don't know, they just maybe judge from the name, or maybe who knew, maybe I checked the wrong box, so then they put me in the male dormitory. So I needed to tell somehow that I hope it's clear that I'm not a male, I'm a female. Can you put me into the female dormitory? So it was a hassle on that day. I still remember that. Yeah.
All right. Then what happened from there?
And then I went to the dormitory that it's a female dormitory, and I had a roommate, or housemate, sort of what it's called. Like it's not the girl that share the room, but it's in this next room. She was really nice. I still remember. She was from Chicago. She kind of helped me through it. She gave me the Pop-Tarts for because I was hungry.
First time for you to ever have a Pop-Tart?
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is so sweet. Sure, I'll eat this. Yeah. So it's I think little by little, so people kind of help me because they can tell that I don't understand English.
Right.
Yeah.
So who did you meet when you finally could communicate with them? Who was that?
I don't know. To be honest, I think my memory on the ESL, when I was in the ESL program, it's a little bit limited because I think it's every day was just so survival for me. So I'm not really sure. Remember, I'm sure a lot of people helped me.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. But there's a time when you really realize that I'm able to communicate now. When did that happen for you?
I think there was like couple moments, like towards the end of life in New Orleans. I knew that I'm going to grad school in California. At that time, I had like some of the friends to go out and like have a fun at night kind of friends. Then it made me feel like, okay, I'm like able to communicate with people and have a fun and in New Orleans. So I had a lot of fun there. So at that time I was able to feel that way, like I'm able to speak English now, able to communicate. But when I moved to California, that was a whole new experience too, because the way that I was speaking English was a little bit different. So I think that was like another experience that people didn't understand what I say, and my accent was not a particularly like Japanese accent. It was a little bit of New Orleans was in it. So that was like another time that it took a while for me. It's like, okay, I hope people understand what I'm saying. And then maybe when I start working in San Francisco, I think that's the time like, okay, I'm start having more sort of professional way of able to speak English.
Did you change the friends you were around? Well, you had to change them because you were not any longer in New Orleans.
Yeah.
But New Orleans, the college you went to was basically a black college, right?
Yes, I went to HBCU. Yes,
And
University.
so the percentage of Asians there was what, like 10, 3, 4%?
That's a lot of yeah, true. There's a lot of students in the pharmacy department.
Right.
But I was in the art major, so I was probably only one Asian student in the art department.
And that's what you were focusing on.
Yeah.
Would you want to become What type of artist did you want to become?
I wanted to be painter. That was my first dream.
But what
Yeah.
type of a painter? Did you want to paint landscapes, people, big murals? What did you want to do?
It's like these sort of character, and I know it's like an anime, like a little bit, but it's, I guess, modern art.
I actually did
Typical.
see your artwork, and you showed it to me, and it's really fascinating. It's very interesting. And you said you
Thank you.
sold it. I could see you being able to sell it easily.
Thank you.
Really. And you're not going to do that? You probably will do it again. You have to. When you have a talent like that, you should
Yeah,
really share it with people.
I think I like to explore that. But yeah, first I have to kind of make a time for myself to
Right.
do that again. Yeah.
Because by doing that, do you have to, when artists have, let's say, a style that's theirs, can you trademark it? I mean, how do you keep people from copying it
I don't know.
and making it look like it's theirs? Because I could see
Yeah.
someone taking yours and making it look like it's theirs.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I never thought about it. Like for me, like painting something like that was to tell the story that I saw in New Orleans, especially. That's where I learned so many different kind of stories, and it was something sort of fascinating for me that I wanted to find a way to tell the people.
Well, the thing that happened for you, tell everyone what happened. What happened while you were in New Orleans?
So second year of Xavier University, actually, it was first week into the fall semester. The Hurricane Katrina happened. So I needed to, well, I didn't evacuate for the time that Katrina happened, but after that, I needed to evacuate. So for one semester, I was out of sort of placement and went to Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, and then went to Atlanta, and then came back to New Orleans. But yeah, so that experience changed whole perspective of my life. Yeah,
In what way?
especially after coming back, I was more actively trying to, rebuild in New Orleans, and that was something that made, I think, people in New Orleans really united as well. So I got involved in like community arts. That's where I met art therapists. That's which made me pursue art therapy.
Well, you started doing you thought about doing art therapy from that point?
From that point, yeah.
Your second semester.
Yeah. It's because I didn't know that first of all art
That
therapy
that
exists.
existed, right?
Yes.
I don't think most people know that. Really, something.
Yeah.
When you said that to me, I started thinking, where have I heard about that before? And I have, but it's something that isn't really pushed in the media. That
Yeah.
people go through, use art as a therapy, but I know I've seen it in some documentaries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of art therapists from New York came at the time to help rebuilding New Orleans, and so I got to see it and I got to experience for myself, and myself was a survivor at the time, so it created a lot of healing from art as well. Yeah.
Mhm. It's done for people that are having trouble, I think, in a way, verbalizing what's happened to them.
Yeah. A lot of
So
people use
they
that.
do it through art somehow to be able to get the emotions out and the feelings.
Yeah.
Okay. And didn't you tell me you're saying something about a lot of people like to think that artists are really
Uh-huh.
live in a dark place?
I used to think that way.
But is that true? Most artists?
I'm just saying, I can't speak for everyone, but I think there's a certain sort of culture that, artists, like we try to go in this dark place to express what we experience in the dark place.
Was that
So,
true
yeah.
for you?
It some extent, yes, I think it was for me that I felt like I needed to be in the dark place in order to express something that is sort of out ordinary. If I'm happy, that I'm not able to produce something pretty or beautiful. I don't know, that's kind of strange, but I had that sort of feeling at the time.
You feel that way now?
No. I think now more because I learned psychology and all that too, that it made me realize that if I'm able to trouble different feelings, then I'm still able to express that feeling I want to express. I can express the dark feelings, but I don't have to stay in the dark feelings.
To express them.
Yeah.
You can just know they're there and then come across them in here
Yeah.
without continuing letting it affect you.
Mhm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what is your day like now? So
Yeah.
you finished. Oh wait, let's finish that. You went from New Orleans to where? Where did you leave once you left New Orleans?
And then
Went to
moved to
California
California. Yeah, Northern California.
to do what?
To pursue art therapy because at Xavier I got Bachelor of Arts in visual arts, and then I moved to California for art therapy and marriage and family therapy. Yeah,
And you stayed there for how long? How long did you stay in school for that? 2 years?
2.5, I would say. Yeah, because the art therapy was kind of extra. So yeah.
Now, you told me a little funny story before we spoke too. When you first came to the States, you were here about 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months after first semester of ESL
About 3
program.
months. You called home.
Yes,
Now, tell us that story.
because I wanted to go home.
Then what happened?
My mom asked me, "Can you speak English?" I said no. Okay, then you stay.
You did a great thing for her, Mom. I'm telling you. That's what I call parenting. And it worked. She said, you stay there. We're not wasting our money on you. And you find out it actually was your money. You had to pay for everything.
Yes, but yeah.
But they initially got you involved.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Are you really close to your mother and your brother and
Yeah.
sister?
I think my family is pretty close.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Tell me something, because I have maybe I have a misconception, but I don't see Japanese families being so touchy.
True.
They're not.
They're not necessarily touchy, but I think even that, I know I'm the only one kind of live away from my family, so probably I'm the one have the most distance from them. But they like to stay together. I mean, they're living close to 5 minutes distance each
So when you
other.
go there, do you guys hug?
Hug.
I guess you don't. If you have to think about it, you don't really hug. You have to think about it.
I guess not. Yeah, not anymore. I think it's funny that when I was living in New Orleans, I think I was a hugger, and I kind of
You
shifted.
can't help it. No, you don't hug. Everybody you met was a hugger. You didn't have a choice.
Yeah, that's fine. I think now I changed it. Adapted to the Japanese culture, so we
Right.
don't really hug.
Not so much, right?
Yeah.
I think that's an island culture here because also, let's say before we had the modern medicines that we have, if you got infected and you touched somebody, you could wipe out a whole village. So it's better for you to stay at a distance unless you were trying, for other reasons you wouldn't be distant. But most of the time you need to be away just in case.
Yeah.
And that's just for survival's sake.
Yeah.
You go to California, what was it like for you when you get to California? After being in New Orleans for 2 years, was it 2 years or 2 years?
No, actually, New Orleans 5 years. I would say
5
total.
years.
Yeah, because
Did you ever go home to visit during that 5 years?
I think I did. I don't know how many times I did, but I
But
did.
she let you maybe once. She said, okay, now go back. Got you on the plane real quick.
I'm sure I did, but not that
Okay.
many
Right.
times. But yeah, so 5 years in New Orleans, and then moved to California.
So what was the difference? Because you just came from the South, and that's what we consider to be the deep South. And now you go to the West Coast where people are kind of, hey, dude, what's up?
Yeah, it was different. I mean, I know that people consider people from California as friendly, but compared to New Orleans, I didn't necessarily feel friendly because New Orleans was like more family, like.
They take you in.
Yeah.
California, being a Californian, I can say the way I see it, we're superficially friendly. We'll smile more and quicker,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean I'm your friend.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be dealing with you. I'll have a conversation, that's it. But in New Orleans, if they do talk to you,
Yeah.
they want to hug you. They want to
Yeah.
invite you over for some pie
Yeah.
and this and that, some jambalaya,
Yeah.
and you want to have that.
Yeah, and everybody remembers you. Like, my coffee shop that I go to or grocery shop I go to, everybody knows you kind of thing. So it was a little bit different. Moved to California. It's like, oh, okay, there's a little distance.
And it remained that way the whole time while you were there, basically?
For the grad school, yeah, I think my focus on just to finish the study for myself too. So I don't think it was necessarily had that kind of experience of like feeling family like. Yeah.
You were okay. You said, I'm good.
It's okay. My focus was the study, so it's okay. But after I started working, it was a different experience. I met a lot of great coworkers.
What was your first job you started doing?
So right after grad school, I started working for this nonprofit organization, has a contract with San Francisco County and Alameda County, working for the kids in the foster care.
What was that like?
It was tough, to be honest. I think.
How so?
Uh-uh.
Well, these kids were troubled kids?
Yeah, but more likely because the parents are trouble.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can't really blame the kids for what they go through. And it's a repeated cycle too. Sometimes parents themselves was victim of what happened to themselves.
They can only do what they were taught to do.
Yeah.
They say that's what parenting's like. I always say this. We're never taught how to parent.
Mm-hmm.
And what we consider it to be is us doing what our parents did to us minus the stuff we didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we raise our kids. We just
Yeah.
take out the stuff we didn't like, but we still do the same things our parents did, right? If our
Yeah.
parents believed in corporal punishment, we think, well, look at how I turned out, so we'll do it to our kids.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's
So it's
interesting.
not easy to have a awareness to it. A lot of parents are just doing what they knew. No one really have a teacher for parenting. So that cycle, I think it's a lot of time people who work in that field, it's just feel hopeless too because there's
It's a
not that
vicious
much we
cycle,
can do. Yeah.
So what do you find yourself doing? Going home and crying, or what do you do?
Hmm.
Do you have to have a therapist yourself?
At the time, I didn't have a therapist, but definitely good things is I had a great coworkers. That friendship helps me because we were all working the same field, so that helps me a lot at the time.
What do you
Yeah.
mean? You guys talk about the
Oh yeah, we
issues with
talk
each
a
other?
lot. We go out try to forget about what happened in
Right.
their sessions or yeah. So that was just really good support system that I had.
Okay. So then you stayed there until when? You stayed there for almost 3 years, right?
So I think I worked in that organization for 5 years, which considered to be pretty long.
That is.
Most of the people usually quit
After about 2
3
years or
years.
3 years?
Yeah,
Just because of how much stress it provides
yeah,
and how much trauma they've seen.
yeah.
How many of your colleagues had not been traumatized in
Mhm.
any way and still did that type of work? Because
I
I
think it's
find that most people have been through
impossible.
something.
Yeah,
It's not possible to do it without being through that?
I mean, secondary trauma is real. It's you experience that.
And what's considered secondary trauma?
So it's usually kind of starts from maybe like feeling like burnout, so feel less motivated or like be pessimistic about view of what's happening in their job. More so the type of job or type of
Okay.
work you do. So especially secondary trauma is very common for the people who in the helping profession. So like nurse or like first responder, firefighter. And nowadays, I think it's start getting more attention. The content moderator as well, that they start having this secondary trauma.
Now explain the content moderator.
So
Because that's the kind of work you're doing now, right?
now, yes, I'm. That's the type of preparation that I try to serve. Yeah. So content moderator is the people that who basically when you're in the social media, there's people post gruesome content or something like adults or hate and all this happening, but there's the people who clean up for them.
So you see, it's not just visual; it can be also just the
Writing,
writing
or it could
or
be any
visual.
type of content
Okay.
in the social media that it can be very harmful. And there's the people that who basically check, and then if it's not okay, then they'll clean it.
But why don't they use the bots, the computers to do it?
I think it is still. I'm sure that some of the companies start using that, but it's not accurate. I think it's still human can actually see better about context, or especially like in Japan, maybe the language can be the issue, right? You have to see in the context. So there's the people who work on that. So that's called content moderator, and they're sort of like digital first responder. They're the one go check and see if it's okay or not.
But it affects them too.
Mm-hmm.
And they get an overload of all this seeing it, and they start
Yeah.
having nightmares,
It can.
daymares, I guess too.
Yeah.
Just walking around, you start looking at people differently, and you start thinking thoughts that you don't want to think.
Yeah.
Because you've seen something like that. Yeah, I think you have to be careful what you let into your mind.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that's a job, so they have to expose themselves, right? I mean, it's like other job too. Like let's say like a nurse or even a firefighter, they have to expose to that kind of difficult scene all the
Right.
time.
Right.
So they got to take care of themselves.
All of us are one hair away from being insane.
Mm.
Sanity and insanity is a hair distance apart. Everyone has insane thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between someone who is sane and someone who isn't,
Mm-hmm.
the insane person acts on those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
A sane person won't.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he
yeah.
has those thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, we've all been on top of, not all of us, but many people have been on top of buildings and said, I wonder what it feels like to jump over. But we'll never do it. But
Yeah.
we think that's an insane thought.
Yeah. And when we are under the high stress or high pressure, those thoughts can get strong to the point that we don't know how to control. That's why it's important to get, therapy, counseling, so that they're able to talk it out and it's sort of able to realize it's like, okay, that was just thoughts. I don't have to act on it. That's just the thoughts. I can separate myself.
Right. What about people? Is it important to have good people around you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Support is important.
But you have to know what kind of support, because some people are being sucked dry by people around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So do you have to, let's say I'm a patient and I come to you. Wouldn't you have to know what kind of people I have around me?
I would ask, like, I will sort of assess that in the beginning of the treatment, what kind of support they have. And, sometimes there's a reason that why that person struggled to have a support as well. Maybe there's a communication issue, or maybe upbringing is kind of limiting them to get the support that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does diet or exercise have anything to do with you?
Yeah, that's important too.
How is that? How so?
I think it's naturally, when you're not in a good mood, we'll crave into the not so good food easily, right? Because it creates dopamine and all that. So it is important that have a healthy lifestyle as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Outside of being a content moderator, what else do you do? Are you involved in? Is that the biggest thing?
Well, I have a private practice as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you do in your private practice as well?
I do marriage counseling, also like co-parenting counseling as well. The people who go through divorce, especially international marriage, is a high divorce rate. So, yes.
That's more than Japanese.
For Japanese, I would say, I don't want to give the wrong number, but I would say probably about 30% for Japanese divorce rate. I think international marriage almost close to 50, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know some of the common reasons outside of cultures being completely different?
Culture is one. Also, I think a lot of time it's just a restriction that they have. Some people needed to kind of rush to marry just because of the immigration status, or I think that's I see a lot too, because it's a limited time that they can see each other. So maybe before they learn about each other, they needed to kind of rush
They got married
to
too
marriage.
soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Very seldom you see it when they've been together for a long time. They pretty much know each other, so they know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you find it more on the guy's side or the girl's side?
For
the marriage, yes.
Well, so I see some as a couple who go through the divorce and they want to figure it out, especially for parenting, how to do the co-parenting. That's one of the things I do. But also, I have more clients that are went through the divorce and how to deal with sort of regards to the parenting. Because sometimes maybe the exes are not necessarily supportive about parenting.
Do you have a lot of women like that? Or is it the guy?
Yeah.
It's the women. It's mostly women.
Mostly women, but I do have a men as well. It's sometimes it's maybe the opposite, right? Yeah.
But that's very seldom, isn't it? That's very few compared to the women.
Unfortunately, yeah. I think it's more the women, and in Japan too. What's happening in the custody and all that women tends to have a custody.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What kind of support do they get then? Because I had one guy on where he did a documentary on all these women that have kids, no support, and sometimes their families will reject them. So they're really on their own, and they have their children and no real support system.
Yeah.
And it seems like it happens more in the big city than it does if you go out in the country. In the big city, you have these kids, they're latchkey kids, where they are given a key and they come home and they're still very young.
Yeah.
And no one's there but them, and their mom can't be there. And you have that situation happening sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, when I see it's a lot of women who went through the divorce and have kids. They work really hard, so they have enough finance to be able to hire babysitter or external help. But they work really, really hard
So how do they have time to come to you, and how do you find out about this?
Well, they somehow create this time that it's a limited time, but they still somehow find the time, maybe could their lunchtime in your work, in their work, or
So they know they've had it. They're really stressed out or something. They come to you and they say, "Look,
yeah,
it's becoming really hard for me," and they don't have anywhere to go.
yeah. But it's still, I think it's very, these women that who comes to me is usually more resourceful, because they find it, talking to someone like me is find it helpful. It costs money, obviously, so
It's not insured. They can't do this through insurance. Okay.
yeah. So that it's still very resourceful for them to find a way, talk to someone and find it it's helpful for them.
How long do you usually talk to someone?
Usually 50 to 60 minutes is a one session.
How many sessions does a person usually come? I just say average.
In average.
Of course, it changes.
Yeah, it depends on the topic or the goal that the client has.
Give me an example.
Because it's going to be like maybe someone who just have a sort of went through something and just want to get through whatever that life events that they went through. Then could it be like 10 sessions or something that sort of able to just get through in the one topic in the one session. Some people might have, like they thought I wanted to talk about this, but then when they start talking, there's more other underneath issue come up. Then I might need to kind of suggest it to have more sessions. Right. So it depends on, yeah.
But it's not like a package deal or anything. It's so you feel it. You feel them, and you can tell when they're getting better. And something you say, look, you can tell.
Yeah. And I talk to clients.
So it's not necessarily 10 sessions or whatever. It depends on how they're doing.
Yeah, it's usually because 10 session or 6 sessions because the insurance covers it. Or,
they will cover it. You said they didn't cover it.
No, the marriage, that like marriage type of stuff doesn't cover. So it depends on.
But it does, some things are covered.
It's sometimes people who have like private insurance.
Oh, I see.
Maybe. Yeah, but not the Japanese universal insurance.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. But some people can get psychological care and have it covered on their plan if they have something like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you find many people like that?
Not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So average, they're going to have to be very resourceful, like you said, very resourceful and have the extra income to be able to do this.
Yeah.
What do you like the most about the type of work that you do?
I do enjoy the whole process with people. And such a special job that I get to see such a vulnerable part of human life. Not everybody shows that part of life to anybody. So that I feel very special that I get to see.
Does that give you a different way of how you look at people in general? As to before? Do you remember how you thought about people before you got this knowledge?
Right.
And how you look at them now? Do you see the difference?
I definitely think so. Yeah. I do see differently. But also, like, I take psychotherapy as part of, not social movement, but how to go, like, this is part of being activist for me. Like, I truly believe that, like, able to connect and touch with each human being can change something in the society as well. So yeah, it does change how I see the human, but also it changed how I feel, and I truly believe that I'm hoping that it's going to change something in the society as well.
I think with the fact that we have social media and it's becoming so worldwide that the information is becoming out there, even situations like this, people hearing that. That's why I like having podcasts, because you can find out so many things that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
They'd have to usually be going through some sort of trauma to meet you.
Yeah.
And they get to meet you this way without going through the trauma.
Yeah.
Before I end the podcast, Takako, there's a question I like to ask everyone.
Okay.
If you could magically go back in time and meet the younger Takako, okay?
Yes.
How old, and give her advice. How old would she be, and what advice would you give her?
Any age could it be, and I think it's okay to just how she was. Even the mistake that I made, or even probably the rough time that I had, I think it needed for me to be this way right now. So I'll just say, like, just be who you are and keep going.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much, Takako.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. And never forget, It's all unknown, so continue to reach for the stars.
Because you are too blessed to be stressed.